what Secretary Rollins has said is she wants to make sure, and the president said earlier this week, is that the administration wants to make sure that the folks who are receiving SNAP benefits are those who truly need it, in their words.
As the clock strikes the first moments of January 1st, 2026, millions of families across the United States will perform a familiar yet anxiety-inducing task of checking the balance on their electronic benefit transfer cards. For those relying on the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, commonly known as SNAP, the figure appearing on the screen is more than just a number. It is the guarantee of full meals and the hope of maintaining health within a volatile economy. The most significant question currently looming over recipient communities is whether actual benefit levels will increase or decrease, and how new policy shifts will reshape their lives throughout the upcoming fiscal year. The landscape of Social Security in America is undergoing a profound transition, making the topic of SNAP benefits more pressing than ever in news headlines and policy forums. The primary reason lies in the convergence of multiple factors, ranging from annual cost of living adjustments to systemic changes in federal law. Over the past 12 months, we have witnessed a pivot from emergency support measures toward a more stringent and directed budget management model. January 2026 is regarded as a critical milestone because it is when regulations from new legislation and the technical adjustments of the 2026 fiscal year begin to directly impact the wallets of citizens. This shift is not merely a matter of adding a few dollars due to inflation, but comes accompanied by stricter eligibility conditions, making the answer to whether benefits are rising or falling complex and dependent on individual circumstances. The legal framework governing these changes originates from the most powerful agencies of the federal government. On August 14, 2025, the United States Department of Agriculture, through the Food and Nutrition Service, issued an official notice regarding the cost of living adjustments for the 2026 fiscal year. This serves as the core document determining maximum allotments based on the Thrifty Food Plan calculated from June 2025 data. However, another powerful catalyst for change is the One Big Beautiful Bill of 2025, signed into law by President Donald J. Trump on July 4, 2025. This act has placed new barriers on the Department of Agriculture's ability to provide unplanned benefit increases, while tightening regulations regarding the verification of living expenses. Statements from government officials and reports from the Food and Nutrition Service emphasize that the goal of these adjustments is to ensure fairness and encourage economic self-sufficiency. Delving into specific figures from official data sources, we see a nominal increase that carries significant divergence. According to the August 14th announcement from the Department of Agriculture, the maximum allotment for a household of 4 in the 48 contiguous states and the District of Columbia will rise to $994 per month, compared to $975 the previous year. The minimum allotment for an individual will also see a slight increase to $24. However, a paradox occurs in Hawaii, where the maximum allotment for a family of 4 will actually decrease to $1,689. This indicates that technical adjustments do not always yield uniform benefits across all geographic regions. Furthermore, income standards have been updated to reflect the new situation. A single person wishing to qualify for SNAP in 2026 must have a monthly gross income not exceeding $1,696, while this figure for a household of 4 is $3,483. Asset limits remain at $3,000 for standard households and $4,500 for households with elderly or disabled members. Regarding practical impact, many experts and data analysis units, such as Propel, have pointed out that despite a slight increase in maximum amounts, beneficiaries may feel as though benefits are decreasing due to new deduction regulations. In a report dated September 28, 2025, Propel noted that the One Big Beautiful Bill has prevented the Department of Agriculture from increasing benefits outside of scheduled adjustments until at least October 2027. This means the $19 increase for a family of 4 is fixed and cannot be adjusted further regardless of unexpected food price fluctuations. Moreover, the tightening of utility cost calculations, forcing citizens to provide actual bills instead of using standard utility allowances in many states, could reduce the actual net benefits received by many households. This is a point that citizens must pay particular attention to when submitting renewal applications for 2026. An aspect that cannot be overlooked is the shift in labor management and public health philosophy integrated into the SNAP program. According to an analysis by NASDAQ on December 1, 2025, the government is taking a decisive step toward linking welfare with work responsibility. Work requirements for able-bodied adults without dependents have now been expanded to include individuals up to age 64. This means thousands of people nearing retirement age now face the pressure of finding stable employment to avoid losing their SNAP benefits. Simultaneously, under the influence of the Make America Healthy Again initiative, the list of items permitted for purchase with SNAP cards is being significantly narrowed. Starting January 1, 2026, in states such as Texas, Florida, and Oklahoma, residents will no longer be able to purchase soda, candy, and other junk foods with their benefits. This is an effort to improve public health, but also creates debate regarding the autonomy of low-income consumers. A multidisciplinary perspective shows that these changes are also affected by the interaction between different welfare programs. On October 10, 2025, the Social Security Administration announced a cost of living adjustment of 2.8% for 2026. While this is good news for those receiving pensions and supplemental security income, it creates a side effect for SNAP. Because SNAP is calculated based on net income after deductions. An increase in Social Security income can cause a household's net income to rise, thereby leading to a corresponding reduction in SNAP benefits. For an elderly person relying on both sources of support, the 2.8% increase in SSI could be entirely offset by the decrease in SNAP funds, leaving their total food budget stagnant or even tightened. In policy debates, proponents argue that the 2026 changes are necessary to protect the sustainability of the federal budget and promote a healthier lifestyle. They contend that tightening work requirements will help reduce welfare dependency and bring citizens back into the workforce amid a labor shortage. Conversely, concerned voices emphasize that a $19 monthly increase for a family of 4 is too small compared to skyrocketing rent and utility costs. Requiring individuals aged 55 to 64 to work while they may face chronic health issues is also viewed as an excessive burden. Changes to food categories, though aimed at health goals, are criticized for creating difficulties for residents living in food deserts, where fresh produce is often more expensive and less accessible than processed items. The groups most heavily affected by these changes are households with children and part-time workers. With the shelter deduction cap rising to $744, families in high-rent urban areas may retain a portion of their benefits, but they still face a more complex documentation process. For the disabled and the elderly, although allowed asset levels have been raised, the requirement to prove actual medical and utility expenses in greater detail could become a barrier preventing them from receiving the maximum benefits they deserve. The upcoming schedule requires beneficiaries to be extremely proactive. The new benefit levels based on cost of living adjustments began to take effect for the fiscal year in October 2025. But the major changes regarding work requirements and prohibited food lists will officially explode on January 1, 2026. This is the moment when states will simultaneously enforce new verification procedures. Experts recommend that citizens regularly check their mail and benefit management applications to avoid missing additional information requests from regulatory agencies. Preparing utility bills, heating costs, and income verification from part-time work will be the key to protecting the funds on one's SNAP card. In summary, the answer to whether SNAP benefit levels in January 2026 increase or decrease does not lie in a single number, but in the synthesis of many factors. Theoretically, maximum allotments have increased slightly, but they come with a series of tightening conditions from the One Big Beautiful Bill and new work and health requirements. For many families, this will be a challenging year as they learn to adapt to new regulations to maintain this vital source of support. The deeper meaning of these changes reflects a new government vision for restructuring Social Security, where welfare goes hand in hand with individual responsibility and healthy consumer behavior. In the coming months, closely monitoring how states implement these rules and the community response will provide a more practical view of whether these adjustments truly help Americans improve their food security. Citizens must be informed consumers and legally savvy beneficiaries to navigate these significant changes, ensuring that every family meal remains sufficient despite policy fluctuations in the capital. Transparency and data publication from the Department of Agriculture and related agencies will continue to be the most important reference for citizens to follow the roadmap and protect their legitimate rights in a new era of Social Security.